I'm certain that he, given the time that he's had to go over it with his counsel, has acknowledged that and recognized that to a certain extent that he's able to.
File number 25841FY, People versus Juan Ramon Gonzalez III. Mr. Gonzalez is here with his lawyer, Mr. Luke Knopfinger. Also present is Angelique Camfield from the prosecuting attorney's office and Matt Huff from the probation department. I'm not gonna surprise anybody, but this is a tough case. I'm not sure exactly what the correct solution is here. This matter deserves a consequence, but I'm not sure what that consequence should be. I've met Mr. Gonzalez, dealt with him in some earlier cases. One case was deferred and he successfully completed the deferral. But this case rose to, I guess, a higher level than his earlier disturbing the peace case. Mr. Knopfinger, what would you like me to know?
Yeah, just a couple things, Judge. I know there's restitution requested, and with Mr. Gonzalez, who is, and I agree with the characterization, severely autistic. He receives SSI, disability benefits. He's under a guardianship. His mother is here, his guardian in the gallery, Judge. One thing I'd point out is that this early April meeting for accountability or to discuss what had happened previously at the co-op, she was not in attendance and didn't know about the meeting until just
his mother
guardian.
Okay.
Yes, Judge. And so, you know, I don't intend to cast aspersions, right? It's easy for me to look back and say, well, things could have hopefully have gone better if she were there. But I'm hard pressed to think that things would have been worse. So it is what it is. There is the restitution, there's the recommendation for probation, which essentially for Juan to stay on the straight and narrow and to continue with his mental health regimen. Again, I'm not sure how the restitution is going to be paid. Juan isn't exactly in a position to be working and earning a livelihood. I don't know what else to add, Judge. Mr. Huff lays out the other circumstances quite well in the probation report. I understand that, you know, probation can be helpful to provide oversight. I think we have a good idea of what happened that day. And I think his mother guardian is going to be keeping a watchful eye on him. I also think that he's learned a lesson too. Coming to court, coming before your honor, you know, has an effect on him too. So I think that's important. We're hopeful that he can go back to co-op sometime in the future.
That is a concern because co-op had been kind of at the center of his life.
Yeah.
And now that's not there. I am interested that the original complainants are requesting a jail sentence, but there's a void in his whole therapeutic situation. As I said, this is a difficult case, and I asked help from Mr. Huff, who prepared a pre-sentence report that we're all operating from. Ms. Camfield, what's your thought here?
Well, I agree with the court that it is a case of concern, not only for the behavior that occurred and the people who were placed at risk of injury, inclusive of Mr. Gonzalez, but also he is someone who has a mental health diagnosis with respect to his capacity to control himself and recognize this behavior, not to the extent that he's incompetent, certainly, but that he has a guardian appointed to assist with his decision-making process, even though he is an adult. this was a lot of damage. These were many people placed in fear of injury because of his behavior. I'm certain that he, given the time that he's had to go over it with his counsel, has acknowledged that and recognized that to a certain extent that he's able to. It's difficult with somebody on the spectrum as he is to be able to find those alternative methods of dealing with frustration and controlling impulsivity, which he claims he wasn't able to do here. And
Obviously.
Led to the multitude of items damaged and the people placed in fear. I certainly feel that probation could be of assistance to make sure he's compliant with treatment plans, medications, and the instructions and methods of his guardian to keep him from these situations. I don't know why she wasn't notified of this meeting. It seems everybody's well aware of the fact that she should assist in these types of matters and legally be present. Could it have avoided the situation? I don't know. The fact remains that that's not what occurred, and this did. In a situation where it was a different individual, I would certainly recommend jail. This was a pretty violent outburst with furniture thrown, furniture tipped over, people cornered, items damaged of great value to the co-op for which the restitution is being requested. But incarceration for Mr. Gonzalez isn't necessarily the answer. I don't know that that's going to help him control his frustrations. But he's on some pretty heavy treatment plan medications that also aren't doing necessarily the appropriate job. So I guess I would like to see an order as part of the probation terms that not only is there compliance, but that there be a medication review and a treatment plan review in addition to that being followed, because it seems like at this point it wasn't working. And certainly it's been a number of months since it occurred, so maybe they have already conducted that type of a review, but punishment certainly for him is the restitution, because it's going to be difficult for him to work or do chores with his guardian or whoever to obtain that money to pay it off. But certainly the victims deserve to be put in the place they were before this occurred. Probation oversight, I think, is necessary to ensure that he keeps focusing on his treatment plan and learning, to the extent he's able to, the methods to control this impulsivity and anger in more healthy, non-criminal ways. Perhaps community service of some nature could be helpful as a punishment and deterrence method for the court. He's capable of doing that. He can do things physically. So perhaps that is a good alternative for the court. For the most part, I agree with the recommendation of Mr. Huff. I just struggle with the fact that if this were any other individual, I would be recommending some jail time for this type of behavior.
I'm interested to know that Mr. O'Bear, who authorized the warrant, did it as a summons and complaint, rather than serving an arrest warrant. They were aware of Mr. Gonzalez. You weren't here yet, but he had an incident where he lost his temper and he threw some stuff off a balcony at one of the local apartment complexes, and the prosecutor's office at that time, Mr. Marvin was the elected prosecutor, but I don't remember who exactly worked on it. Worked out a deferral agreement, and Juan completed the terms of the deferral and the case was dismissed. That was just earlier this year. So I think Mr. Robert was aware of Mr. Gonzalez, and in his discretion elected not to do an arrest warrant, or he would have had a little jail at the front end. Juan, have you ever been in jail?
Yes,
How long were you in jail?
a full night.
Yeah, it wasn't much fun, was it?
No.
I asked my probation staff, I don't pick which agent's gonna do the pre-sentence, but all three of them do a nice job, and Matt drew this assignment. And has had a deep dive into this. What's your thought regarding Ms. Canfield's recommendation for some community service?
I think that Mr. Gonzalez is physically capable of doing so. I might have some concerns about new environments.
Yes,
Exposing him to new environments around individuals he doesn't know. If I believe after speaking with his mother and guardian, she indicated, if she's around, typically Juan's doing pretty well. So if there was a community work service component, that burden would be essentially placed on her as well. Do I think he's capable of doing so? Yes. Do I think there might be some difficulties in getting it done or potential for some issues to occur?
that
I would also
was
say.
when she presented the idea, I thought, boy, that'd be another way for him to get sideways with some other people. But it also would be a consequence for what he did. And you've made your recommendation. I thought perhaps someone would be here from community mental health or pivotal, but you got input from them. They're not asking for anything other than the restitution.
Correct. I mean, that's not exactly correct.
Well,
St. Joseph County Co-op is the department that
and I'm not exactly clear what that is. It's on Clay Street in Sturgis.
it is in service on US 12.
12. Okay.
Yeah. As I understand it, it's an organization that has ties to other organizations such as GT Independence, being the fiduciary.
So it's a independent contractor with Pivotal.
They're their own nonprofit. So yeah, they are an independent contract. I don't think that they necessarily contract directly out with Pivotal, but rather they work with Pivotal as another resource for individuals in the community, such as Mr. Gonzalez, to have more resources available for different events and social connections as well. So they provide different services. They did make it very clear, and I think I think the victims in the case are well qualified to make this recommendation, more so perhaps than even myself. They wanted to make sure that the court knew they don't think jail is appropriate for Mr. Gonzalez. We talked at length about their experiences with Mr. Gonzalez, and while there may be some deviations in the story of events, which is normal for pretty much any case, for the most part, everyone seems to be on the same page. The only I guess the difference between just probation or time served, no jail, is that I did speak with Ms. Smith, who was there at the Sturgis office. And as one can imagine, this is a pretty traumatizing event to experience, to be in that situation for everybody involved, including Mr. Gonzalez. And so she did indicate that she would like for there to be a condition for Mr. Gonzalez not to attend or not to be at the co-op for now, if that can be revisited in the future. So that's not a time stamped forever, but for now, if Mr. Gonzalez is placed on the supervision, that be in place. And then as soon as they're ready to lift that, they can come to the probation department, and I can come before the court and change those conditions with the approval of the court. Restitution is very important, and that's why, I mean, it's a difficult case because Mr. Gonzalez is on a fixed income through his disability. He has somebody receive that money and it's paid out. But the co-op is a nonprofit. They operate on a razor wire budget, a razor thin budget. That's part of why there's restitution completed because they had actually switched insurance carriers just days prior to this event taking place. And then when they had recontacted concerning the damage that was done, their insurance provider, they were just basically let known if they made a file, if they filed a claim, that their insurance would be dropped after this.
Mm.
And they have to have that liability insurance in order to operate because of the unique clientele that they have. So restitution, I think, is important. While it is the primary goal of the court to make the victim whole, I think it does serve as a bit of a punishment for Mr. Gonzalez to have to take responsibility for his actions, take some of that money that's going to be coming in and be putting some towards what essentially he would owe to repair the damages. I don't think jail's appropriate. Just repeating, I guess, the line of what the victims in the case were telling me. I do think that supervision is appropriate. And the reason that I say that is just because we have a string of these cases with Mr. Gonzalez now. So I'm a little bit concerned that I don't want this to continue trending in the wrong direction. I think he's more than capable with the right resources and aid to get this corrected and to not be doing this anymore. But it is important that I think that we take the next step. He had a deferral last time where essentially this was just taken off his record. It was nullified by the prosecution. And then essentially 3 months later, we had an outburst. And then a month after that is where this event took place. So I think supervision is appropriate in this case. While this is considered a non-serious misdemeanor, I think that record would be enough to depart from the presumption that he simply receive a fines and costs case. And that's all I would add above what's already listed in the pre-sentence report.
The report, this is bad, Lon. There was an allegation of some improper behavior at social or after program activity at the Sturgis Community Pool. And you didn't like what they were telling you, either because you felt you didn't do it or you didn't like being confronted because you did do it. It was by Zoom. They were in a room with Juan, Sherry, and Benjamin having a Zoom meeting with Pivotal. At some point, Sherry told you were no longer allowed at any after-school programs, which would include the pool. He became irate and started destroying things. He threw the phone at Sherry. Miss Sherry hit the TV, destroying the TV. When the TV hit the ground, the laptop fell with it. Juan then started flipping the tables and throwing the chairs before seeing the laptop on the ground. Juan then started stomping on the TV and the laptop, destroying both. Tammy left the room and Juan went to the front door, slamming the door, breaking the frame, then threw a rock at the door and shattered it. This was it went from bad to worse. You just lost it. You didn't like what they were telling you, and this is how you reacted. You're going to go through the rest of your life and people are going to tell you things you don't want to hear, including me. You're going to have to learn to, I'll give you a chance to deal with these things, but this was an escalation. You're in a small room. These people are in there. The TV, you jump on it, you throw a rock at the window, just bad. You can't do this. You can't react to things you don't like with these tantrums. Now, you are on the autism scale, but you're not dumb. You're intelligent. Just because somebody's autistic doesn't mean that they aren't intelligent and can't understand and process things. I've had conversations with you and you always very polite, respectful to me, clearly state what you think, but you can't do this. What's going to happen is you're going to do this in the wrong place at the wrong time. You're going to get tased, you're going to get maced, you're going to get hauled off to jail. And then we'll be dealing with a new whole series of issues. So what would you like to tell me?
I did beg them to let me leave, and That's when they locked the door and told me I wasn't allowed to leave and told me to sit down.
And that's when you lost your temper?
Yeah,
All right,
I even asked Benjamin if he could drive me back home and they still didn't let me.
all right, maybe you had news you didn't want to hear. What else you want to tell me?
That it is something I do regret doing.
How are you gonna pay back all this money? The total was somewhere around $1,800. It's totaled up someplace. I'll find it.
$2,316.25.
You get a little bit of money each month. You're gonna have to use some of that money to repay this. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, your mom's here and she had raised her hand. She's been here through all of these other proceedings. Is there anything you wish to say?
We did do it.
All right, I'd like you to come up to the podium if you would, so you'll be clearly on the record.
We have done a full med. They looked at all his med and changed all of his meds. So the meds he's on now are completely different than what he was on then. He also was having a, not allergic reaction, but he had a reaction to some cholesterol meds they had him on, which can cause mania. And that was during the time of this incident, which he's no longer on those. And we took him off of a med that can cause rage that he had been on since he was 8. He's no longer on that either. So this regimen of meds are completely different.
That's an additional factor here. Was medicated, and some of these may be side effects of the medication.
Correct.
That he would-
Unbeknownst to us, some cholesterol meds can cause mania, which when you already have a diagnosis for mania, it can make it worse. So he was, in March, he was very volatile at that time when this all happened, which is why the meeting never should have happened without me being notified.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
I'm gonna follow Matt's recommendation with a couple sanctions. I'm gonna do a 24-month probation. The fine is 0. There's a $75 crime victims' rights fee, a $50 state minimum fee, and a $150 attorney fee. I'm gonna waive your oversight fees. 24 months would be a $960 probation oversight fee, which would be money that would go to the court rather to restitution.
Thank you, Judge.
I'm gonna order that you pay restitution in the amount of $2,316.25 to the co-op. You may not attend any co-op activities until further order of the court. Want to have you do 20 hours of community service. My thought is perhaps we could coordinate with Cole here at the county. There's some things he could do here in the parking lot or other places that maybe we can make work. You're to cooperate with Pivotal. Sign a release. Do we already have a release?
I don't believe so. Not with Pivotal.
Sign a release, take all meds as directed. No drugs and alcohol, which isn't really an issue with you on, but it's a condition of everybody's probation. Matt, am I leaving anything out?
I don't believe so. I think there was, during the interview, there was some inclination that he may be pursuing a medical marijuana card.
If he does that, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I don't know that you need to mix marijuana, especially as potent as it is, with all your other medications. But if some medical provider believes that,
It actually substitutes some of the medications.
all right, if they can do that, I'm not gonna supplant it, but you gotta have a medical card if you're gonna be using it. All right, I want you to go downstairs with Mr. Huff. And let's make this work. The restitution is gonna be hard, but I tried not to put in any more cost than I had to.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Gibson, let's talk to Ms. Hicks.
Hey, thanks for watching. Please do let us know in the comments what you thought of this video. If you'd like to support what we do here, the best way to do it is to pick up some of our merch. You can find it at courtroomfiles.com.